Are you unsure of how to solve a problem, how to move on, how to heal? Do you often wonder when you find yourself in situations, am I trusting God with this? Are you worried that your children might never come back to God? Or do you have thoughts that it might just be too late to reconnect with your estranged child? It's really easy to say that we trust God. It's much harder to actually release control, especially when your child is making choices that you don't understand. When the relationship you once had with them is now strained or broken, and when their faith seems to have grown cold and distant. You may be praying and you may be believing, but deep down, you might still be gripping the situation tighter than you realize. In today's episode, we're uncovering 3 signs that show you might still be holding on to things that need to be surrendered to God. And we'll be talking about how to finally release that weight so you can experience real peace before anything even changes. So grab your notebook and a pen, make your cinnamon latte, and let's dive in. Hi friends, welcome to The Awakened Christian Woman. Are you struggling with broken relationships and losses that have shaken your faith and left you wondering where God is? If you long for peace, a deeper prayer life, and faith that holds steady, you're in the right place. I'm Sarah, a wife, mom of adult kids, and your Jesus-loving friend. Here you'll find faith-filled encouragement and practical tools to help you trust God, pray with confidence, and walk closely with Him. So turn off your alarm clock, pour a strong latte, and let the sun shine in your life. Also, become an Awakened Christian Woman Insider today. When you become an insider, you'll get weekly inspiration sent straight to your inbox. I promise I send no spam. You'll also get practical tips on how to trust God more, how to grow deeper in your prayer life, and how to be more in tune with Jesus. And you'll get early bird access to special offers from me. Sign up today at awakenedchristianwomaninsider.gr-site.com. I'll also put the sign-up link in the episode notes so that's easier for you. Hi friends, I'm at the tail end of my cold and feeling much better. I'm really excited about today's episode because I think it's going to be impactful in a positive way for so many of you. This has been a journey for me, and I know so many of you are going to relate to the examples and the stories that I'm sharing today. A few years ago, my youngest son was about 19 at the time. He had just graduated from high school, and he decided that he wanted to go off to a Bible college that was 2,800 miles away. So it was really far, and he was my youngest child leaving the home. I was going into the empty nest season, or whatever that's supposed to look like. And it really was a leap of faith, I think, for him as well as for me. I was super proud of him for wanting to grow spiritually and just excited to see what God was going to do in his life. As part of this Bible school experience, I knew that he was going to do some ministry and humanitarian projects abroad, which again was so fun and just really interesting. I was praying for the Lord to really grow his gifts and his talents and help him meet great friends and really grow his faith deeper. But I remember talking to him on the phone not too long before he was scheduled to go on his first humanitarian/mission trip. And he told me that his team was going to be sent to Ukraine. I didn't think much more about it at the time other than how exciting it was until the next day when I was watching TV, or maybe I was on the internet, I can't remember which, but I heard that war had broken out between Russia and Ukraine. All of a sudden, I became worried and fearful. Had his team already bought the plane tickets, I wondered? Surely they wouldn't still be sending him there. I quickly picked up the phone and dialed my son's number. No answer. This is where my thoughts as a mom begin to reel and spin out of control if I'm not careful. I tried to hold it together and I waited for him to call me back when he had time. But that night, I still hadn't heard back from him and I was having trouble sleeping. You know what that looks like. You're laying in the bed, your head is on the pillow, you're trying to fall asleep, and all of the what-if scenarios start popping into your mind. I started imagining scenarios that hadn't even happened yet. So I mentally was trying to calculate the risks, and I wondered if it had been the wrong decision as a mom to encourage him to go to this Bible college so far away. Well, finally, the next day, he called me back and he told me they wouldn't be going to Ukraine after all. So all of my worry had been for nothing. Instead, he told me they would be going to Poland just across from the Ukraine border. I'm not sure if that was supposed to make me feel better, but it really didn't. He was still going to be halfway across the world, far beyond my reach, in an area near where a major war had just broken out. Things were super uncertain at the time. No one knew how long the war was going to last or how bad it was going to get. And yet my son seemed completely calm about the situation. I couldn't help but wonder, did God really want to send him there? So, you know how it goes. After wrestling with some thoughts in my mind, I remember having the thought that I just had to trust God with this. It was beyond my control. I wanted so much to hold on, but I had to let go. I really didn't have a choice. I asked the Lord to protect my son because I couldn't go with him, and there was nothing I could do if things went wrong. That situation with my son forced me to confront something in my own heart. I always said I trusted God, but I realized that there were still some places where I was holding on. And while I wasn't estranged from my son at the time, the feelings were similar to what so many of you feel when your child is far away emotionally, or spiritually, or physically, or all of the above, and you can't control the outcome. There are some signs in those moments that we're still holding on, even when we say we trust him. And it's so important for us to notice those signs when they show up. So the first sign that you might be holding back from trusting God is that you spend a lot of time worrying about your child. That worry keeps you awake at night, and your days are filled with wonder about whether there's something that you can do to reach out or to make things better or to rescue your child in some way. Maybe you worry about how your last interaction went with them, whether you could have said or done something differently that would have created a better result. You might be replaying conversations in your mind, wondering, did I say enough about Jesus? Did I model the Lord's love to my child? Did I miss my chance to do that? Being concerned about your child is somewhat normal whenever they're dealing with something that's really scary, like an addiction, or if they're homeless, or they have a mental health issue. But even worrying about those things can go too far. There's a difference between being concerned and being chronically worried to the point where it's paralyzing you. Worry, I think, for us as moms, often feels productive, like we're doing something in some way to help our child, but actually worry produces nothing. It makes us feel involved when we're actually powerless. So if you keep taking worry back after you already gave it to God, if you can't let go of worry, if it's taking over your life, here is what you need to do. First of all, read 1 Peter 5, verse 7. It says, "Cast all of your cares upon the Lord, for he cares for you." Recognize that there's only so much you can do. Do what you can. When you find yourself in the situation, ask yourself, is there some responsible action that I can actually take here? Or am I just emotionally obsessing over the situation? And if you're emotionally obsessing over the situation, that's where you know that it's gone too far. So after you have done whatever it is that you can do, then give the rest to God. You can pray over your child, but you can't save his soul. Only God can do that. And trusting God means trusting him with your child's soul. It means believing that the Lord loves your child even more than you do. Another example is you can offer help to your child to find a counselor if they're struggling with depression or anxiety or things like that. But you can't go to the appointment for them, and you can't make it a productive counseling session. So give that worry to God. Some things get to where you just have to say, God, this is bigger than me. You've got to take care of it because I'm helpless. I'm not hopeless, but I'm helpless right now. The second sign that you might be holding back from trusting God is that you are living in fear of what could happen to your child, kind of like I explained in the beginning of this episode when I talked about the fears that I had for my child going over to Poland. There was nothing that I could have done about that situation, realistically, and the fears were not helping. All they were doing was keeping me paralyzed in these thoughts that didn't change the situation at all and couldn't change the situation at all. So I was super worried about something that would happen to my son in this life, like he might get hurt or be stuck over there or all kinds of things. Some of you aren't just afraid of what might happen in this life. You're afraid of whether your children will be with Jesus in eternity. Or you may have a child who has a lifelong physical illness. I talked with one mom recently whose daughter had an inherited medical issue, and it created a lot of challenges for this mom. It wasn't easy for her to support her daughter with that. She was constantly dealing with it, talking to doctors, talking to her daughter, and was just coming up empty-handed as far as solutions went. That's a super difficult situation that can create a lot of fear. Your child might struggle with addiction and be hanging out with the wrong friends. As a mom, it's human to be saddened and concerned about that because we all have seen how addiction can take people off course in life. You might be so disappointed too because you thought your child had already hit rock bottom and you were hopeful that by now he or she would be sober. She might not even be safe or making safe decisions during this time. And then there are those situations where some children get caught up in unhealthy romantic relationships. As a mom, you might be really afraid that that relationship will continue, that your child will stay in that relationship and won't even see how it's impacting them negatively. Some children struggle incredibly with their mental health, and it can be absolutely debilitating. When you as a mom want to help, but you don't have the skills or the knowledge or the resources to help, or when your child isn't open to the idea of getting any help, it's normal for you to feel afraid. You might fear that, your child might never climb out of the pit of depression. You might fear that their anxiety will prevent them from being able to hold down a job. And for so many of us, and so many of you listening today, I understand what it's like to fear how our situations will turn out if our children are estranged. We fear whether things will stay the same. We wonder whether things could ever be better. And we want things to be better, but we fear the unknowns. That's because fear always projects a future where God doesn't show up. Remember from 2 Timothy chapter 1, verse 7, God has not given us a spirit of fear, but of power, of love, and of a sound mind. He wants you to have a sound mind. Trust God to take care of your child and trust that He can protect your child no matter where they are in the world, no matter where they are in their relationship with you, and no matter where they are in their relationship with God. Trust God to lead your child and to give your child wisdom for any decisions that they need to make. You see, trusting God doesn't mean ignoring real danger, and it doesn't mean not doing something if there is something actionable that you can do. But trusting God does mean recognizing that He is present in spite of the dangers, and that He holds your future and your child's future in His hands. He can handle it. The third sign to watch out for, that's a sign that you might be holding back from trusting God, is when you are doubting that God can save or redeem or restore things in your situation. Like when you find yourself focusing on the words or actions or behaviors of other people, and you use that information to doubt that things can ever improve, you're looking at things in the natural way, but you're not looking at that situation through God's eyes. Your main concern for your child might be about their eternal soul and being with Jesus for eternity. But at the same time, you might be finding it hard to believe that your child could ever be saved because you see their choices and their behaviors. So just like Peter, who started to look at the waves instead of fixing his eyes on Jesus, We often get distracted by everything we see happening around us or what we see people doing, and we start wondering if the Lord can really redeem the years that have been lost in a relationship that went wrong. We start wondering whether He can really save our child. And if you've ever thought, well, my child knows the truth, he's heard it all, and if he hasn't chosen God by now, maybe he never will, realize that that is doubt talking. That is not faith. God can restore broken things. He can heal hearts, and He can bring new life where there is no life right now. He pursues prodigals better than we ever could. And God isn't finished with any of us yet. He's working, and He doesn't need you to accomplish what He's accomplishing. He wants you to trust Him with the process. His timeline is not your timeline. So let's talk about what it looks like to actually trust God in our day-to-day experience. It looks like continuing to pray even when nothing changes and speaking hope instead of doom and gloom. It means refusing to declare that your child is too far gone and believing that God can do anything in his or her life. What if for one day, every time worry or fear or doubt tried to return, you simply handed it back to God again? What would happen if you released people and situations that you could not control? Because that's the reality. We can't control other people, and a lot of times we can't control the situations that they're in or that we find ourselves in. So if you find yourself worrying a lot or being in fear or doubting what the Lord can do in your child's life, I want to encourage you to open up your Bible and next to 1 Peter 5:7, just write down your child's name. Maybe you're not used to writing in your Bible like I do. That's okay. You can use pencil, but write your child's name right there next to 1 Peter 5:7, where it says, "Cast all your cares upon the Lord, for He cares for you." Now, before we close, I want you to get out your notebook and do this little journaling exercise. Write down what you think about when you wake up in the middle of the night. What are those thoughts that cause you to struggle to fall asleep? When your house is completely quiet and there are no distractions, what do you find yourself thinking about? Write those down. What are the fears, the doubts, and the worries that your brain keeps going back to during the day, like your brain is on autopilot? Now, write out a prayer about those things that are weighing heavily on your heart today. Give them to God. Admit that you can't solve those problems. You might be helpless, but you are not hopeless. Ask Him to carry those burdens for you and lay it all at the foot of the cross so that you can finally begin experiencing peace from the worry, peace from the doubt, peace from the fear. When you release what you can't control, you make room for the peace of God to guard your heart. So today, choose to surrender everything to God instead of striving. Choose prayer over panicking, and choose trusting Him over allowing thoughts to torment you, and let God be God in your child's story. Hey, I hope today's episode inspired you. If so, would you click the follow button for the show and share it with someone who wants to learn more about trusting God? Also, please take 30 seconds to leave me a quick review of the show on Apple Podcasts. It means so much to me to know this podcast is encouraging you. Set your alarm to wake up to Jesus and your mocha, and meet me here every Tuesday for a new episode. See you soon.